So Hare Krishna, everybody. So welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam study. We are now doing chapter 18. Okay, right. Before that, we just do our prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna So we start with Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchak Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nara Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu nitya bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shlokir bhaktir bhavatir naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Nigamakалпатароргалитам phalam sukhamukadamritadravya samyudam vibhata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Suta Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangre Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vigna Vinasha Narasimha Iti Namini Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langaitim Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Mishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome back. Happy Balaram Purnima Mahotsava to everyone. So we will just recap a little bit of chapter 17. the last time we did chapter 17, punishment and reward of Kali. So it began with the crime scene of how Parikshit Maharaj arrived in the place where the banks of the Saraswati River, where this conversation between Dharani and Dharma, the bull and the earth, right? Religiosity personified and the earth personified. They were having a conversation. And over there, he sees a king who is dressed, a Shudra who's dressed like a king, and this king is attacking the bull's legs. So he utters a challenge to the king, and while he's uttering the challenge to the king, he also reassures the bull and conducts an inquiry as to why this is happening. Who is the cause of this? Although it's obvious that the Kali is doing this, but yet she's showing how he is a very good king, and then he's asking, understanding that there are room for misunderstanding and all that. So he directly asks the bull itself. And then we heard the bull's response in how he was naming, he did not directly name the aggressor. So he was following the philosophy of not directly naming the aggressor. Rather, he was saying it could be due to many things. We could not ascertain why we are suffering. It could be karma, it could be, so many, finally, it could be the understanding of it could be basically the will of the Lord. So Maharaj Parikshit makes a judgment. After hearing this, he's very satisfied. He could understand that this is none other than the personification of religion himself, Dharma, who could speak in such ways, right? Otherwise, it's common. Most people will just directly blame the first thing they will see as the cause of all their problems, right? So whether it's true or not. So, but the response that the bull gave was very deep and very philosophical and full of spiritual truths. So therefore he could understand, and he was also very intelligent. He could make a judgment, and he understood that this Kali, this personification of Kali, has to be punished. And he gave due punishment to this personification of Kali. He banished Kali. He wanted to kill him, but then Kali begged for mercy, and part of the Kshatriya code is that they should give mercy to one who begs for mercy. And especially so because he is the descendant of Dhananjaya, a descendant of Arjuna. And Arjuna is very famous for being merciful to those who request mercy from him. So, but nevertheless, mercy is one thing, but at the same time, he cannot stay in the kingdom because he is a friend of Adharma. So Kali, being a friend of Adharma, has to be banished. There's no room for him. So, but since he requested for mercy and he asked for a place to stay, Maharaj Parikshit is very intelligent. He is the king of the world. So he said, okay, I will let you stay in 5 places. Panchasthanam, remember? So what are the 4? The first one is wherever there is illicit sexual activities, wherever there is gambling, wherever there is intoxication activities, and wherever there is meat eating, right? So these 4 plus, and then after first giving these 4 places, the 4 sthanams, Kali still begged further. No, in your kingdom, there is nowhere I can go. These 4 places that you have just named is practically not existing in your kingdom. So Maharaj Parikshit knew that also. But at the same time, so this Kali, when he asked this way, then he, please give me one more place to stay. Then finally Maharaj Parikshit said, okay, if that's the case, you will be able to stay wherever gold is being hoarded. So because Maharaj Parikshit knew misappropriation of wealth is one of the main causes of these 4 illicit activities to flourish. Whereas in his kingdom, in Parikshit Maharaj's kingdom, there is no chance for wealth to be misused, because Parikshit Maharaj was a Raja Rishi. He was trained by saintly kings, by Yudhishthira Maharaj, by all the sages. So he knows exactly how to use wealth in the service of the Lord. So as long as he is there, and as long as his descendants are there, then it should be quite checked. Kali should be quite checked. So therefore, this was the reward of Kali. And then we heard more about the exemplary governance of Parikshit Maharaj. So a lot of things we heard about government, and how government should be ideally. Prabhupada gave lots of purports on this matter we discussed. So now moving on, we will go to chapter 18. So this is continuation. It's entitled Maharaj Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmana Boy. So you can see the picture here. This is the picture of how Maharaj Parikshit finally meets his death. You can see that fearsome creature over there. So that is called Takshaka, the snake bird, the king of the snakes. So it begins this way with this verse. Suta uvacha yo vaidrauni ashtra viplusto namatur udare mritaha anugrahad bhagavataha krisnasyadbhuta karmanaha. So translation goes, Suta uvacha, due to the mercy, anugrahat. So we have come across this anugrahat word several times already in the course of this Srimad Bhagavatam. It basically means the mercy of the Lord. Anugraha, right? In Malay also we see this word, anugrah. So actually it derives from it's like a gift of mercy. So due to the anugraha of the personality of Godhead, Krishnasya Buddha Karmanaha. So this means Krishna, who is that personality of Godhead? That personality of Godhead is Krishna, who is Adbhuta Karmana. Adbhuta means amazing or extraordinary, and Karmana means activities. So he whose activities are extraordinary. So by his mercy, right? What happened to by his mercy? So continues, Maharaj Parikshit, though struck by Drauni Ashtra. Drauni Ashtra means the Ashtra, the weapon of the son of Drona. Who is the son of Drona? Ashwatthama, right? So Ashwatthama, if you remember earlier on, I think in chapter 9, we were discussing how Ashwatthama released his Brahmastra to try to kill the last vestiges of the descendants of the Pandavas. So he wanted to kill the unborn child within the womb of Uttara. Uttara is the wife of Arjuna. The wife of Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna. So, and then we heard also how amazingly, right, Krishna, the one who performs amazing activities, right? He performed yet another amazing activity by directly entering into the womb of Uttara. When Uttara came to Krishna and begged for help, Pahi Pahi Mahayogi Deva Deva Jagatpate Nanyam Tom Avayam Pasye Yatra Mrityor Parasparam. So he asked, Oh Arjuna, oh Krishna, Krishna, Pahi Pahi, save me from this impending doom. If not me, at least save my child who's in my womb. I can feel the Brahmastra coming towards my child. So immediately, before any of the Pandavas could react, Krishna, immediately he entered into the womb and he appeared. And while he entered into the womb, the baby, the unborn child who already had consciousness at that time, was able to see this amazing personality, right? We heard this at some length already. So Suta Goswami here, this conversation is taking place between Suta Goswami and Saunaka Rishi in the forest of Naimisaranya. And they are discussing the conversation that took place between Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So like that, it's a conversation within conversation. And here we are hearing how Drona's son, Ashwatthama, was almost killed this Parikshit in the womb, but he was saved by the anugraha, extraordinary mercy of the Lord, who performs karmani, adbhuta karmana, performs extraordinary activities. So purposely, Suta Goswami spoke like this, right? Because he wanted to incite the interest of the sages in Naimisaranya. So he already spoke this, and now he continues, right? He's now telling further. Furthermore, Maharaj Parikshit was always Bhagavati Arpitasayaha. That means he was always consciously surrendered to the personality of Godhead. So Maharaj Parikshit was purely surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So all this was already known by the sages because already he mentioned this earlier in the earlier chapters. But then he starts saying, and therefore he was neither afraid nor overwhelmed by fear due to a snake bird which was to bite him. Now, this was new information. The sages in Naimisaranya didn't know about this. So they know that Parikshit Maharaj heard this pastime and everything, but they don't know the details. So now he is hinting about these details simply to strike the curiosity, to arouse the curiosity of the sages, so that he's testing them. Do you want to hear more? So like that. So he's telling, this is extraordinary circumstances. How is it that Maharaj Pariksit, such a great Mahabhagavata, who was saved within the womb by the greatest calamity in the world, in the entire universe, which is the Brahmastra weapon, which nothing can overcome, and that itself he was saved, right, by Krishna. So such a situation he was saved, but this bite of a snake bird, he was not saved. So how is this? This is amazing. So, and how did this happen? And Maharaj Parikshit himself is so powerful. So how did this happen in such a way? So it definitely arose all the curiosity of all the assembled sages. And then he further said, not only he was not afraid, he was not afraid because he was fully surrendered to the Lord. So it didn't matter to him. So he was fearless in the face of this death, snake bird. And then he further said, because of the fury of a Brahmana boy. Oh, this is very interesting. Why is a Brahmana boy is able to be so furious and he caused this curse to happen? So it's certainly a very interesting topic. So therefore, it arose the curiosity. So Prabhupada says, a self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called Narayana Parayana. Such a person is never afraid of any place or person, not even of death. So just like, nowadays we have all this COVID situation and everything. So a devotee, even if you are not fully surrendered yet, but if you are following in that footstep, the way of the devotee is he's surrendered to the will of the Lord. He understands that the Lord guides the devotees in every way, right? So a devotee who's trying to follow the footsteps of these pure devotees, he or she is not under the purview of karma any longer. The Lord simply uses the excuse of the karma, but he is now completely under the grace of the Lord. So by the Lord's grace, whether it is good or whether it is bad, the devotee understands it's all by the Lord's grace. And he's fully confident that whether it's good or bad, the Lord knows. He's the expert who knows exactly how to bring me back to Godhead. He knows, okay, this person is sincere, the person is serious, he's trying very hard, he's chanting the 16 rounds, he's following the 4 regulative principles, he's trying to serve the devotees and Krishna as best as he can, and he's maintaining his duty or whatever. So this is sufficient. This means that that person has the desire to go back to Godhead. So he is now under the purview of Krishna's jurisdiction. So he knows exactly what to do. He will use the vestiges of the karma which is due to us, and he will make it such that, he knows exactly what to give and what not to give, what kind of situations we go through and what not we go through. So in this way, we don't have to worry. So just like one example was once a story someone told. There was this person, they were in an aeroplane. So when they were in an aeroplane, they were flying. So in this aeroplane, there was a young girl sitting in the first class alone. And then next to that seat was a few other people all sitting. So while they were flying in the aeroplane, the girl was busily reading a book. She was just reading a book and she was going about. And people were doing various things. Then suddenly there was a storm, a terrible storm. And while during the storm, the aeroplane pitched a little. It sometimes, swerved a little, and the stewardesses who were carrying the the trays and everything, it sort of they stumbled a little. The tray fell, and people were sort of panicking a little. But this young girl was not bothered. She was just reading the book. It didn't matter to her. She was fully engrossed. So then and then it got worse. And then people were announcing this is a very bad storm and everything. And then, but then no problem. people were starting to pray, and they were like, some were crying, some were fearful. But then this girl was still just reading normally. She was no difference in her behavior. And then finally, somehow the storm abated and they did not crash or anything. So they were able to overcome that storm. And then later they landed, and then there was few people who were watching this girl. They thought that this young girl is, we have to go and comfort her. She's crying like anything, but she's not. She's the most brave amongst all of them. So then, some curiously, they went to ask her, why just now all this happened, and I noticed you were completely engrossed in your book, and you did not show the least symptoms of fear. So why? Could you tell me what is the source of your bravery? Then the girl said, "Oh, it's nothing. You see, I know that we wouldn't crash. I know that I will be completely saved and everything. There was no problem." And then why? Because the person who's driving this plane is my daddy. And my daddy is, I know my daddy. He's always protecting me. So he will take care of me. So not to worry. So in that way, this is the faith of that little girl in her father. So in the same way, we should have faith with the Supreme Lord, who is our eternal Father. So whether there is turbulence or no turbulence, right, we should understand that Krishna, who is the most expert, he's the most powerful, right? Nothing can overcome him, and he knows exactly what to do for us. So if we can just have that faith, then we don't have to have any fear. So in this way, Krishna, even Prabhupada, during World War II, they were dropping bombs and everything. Then Prabhupada was just very peaceful. He said, "Oh, okay, if the bomb comes, then we will say, here comes Krishna, and we'll chant Hare Krishna and we'll go. If the bomb doesn't come, then we will still continue chanting Hare Krishna and we'll have our plans to move about." So that's the idea, right? So the devotee is surrendered. So a self-surrendered devotee of the Lord is called Narayana Parayana. So we should have this understanding and we should cultivate it. It will come as we chant more, as we perform devotional service. And in this way, we will develop that fearlessness. That's why Prabhupada is called Abhaya Charanaravinda. Fearing is actually one of the four things which are common to animals and humans. Eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. Now, Prabhupada sometimes translates defending as fearing. So defending, why we defend? Because out of fear. So fearing. So the fear, everything, fear, I'm scared of this, I fear that, what will happen tomorrow, what's going to happen to the world. So this kind of fearing is common to animals also. So we should not just be doing these things, we should go beyond. So that's the idea about it. So he knew that Krishna had saved him in the womb. Parikshit Maharaj, he knew Krishna had saved him in the womb, and not only from any disaster and not only from any danger, from the ultimate number one danger in the entire existence, the Brahmashtra. So if he was capable of saving him from that, right, and if he were to be killed by a mere snake bite, it would also take place by the will of the Lord. So this is a very nice statement by Prabhupada. We should really try to understand this and imbibe this in our consciousness. Anything sent by God is a blessing. We have to firmly have this conviction in the happiness and in the distress, right? Matra sparsas tu kauteya, right? Happiness or distress, if we are following the four regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna, and then we should have this conviction. That is the sign of a pure devotee of the Lord. So then Suta Goswami continues. Furthermore, after leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a Sishya to Vyasake. So Sishya means a disciple. To Vyasake means the son of Vyasa. So Vyasake means the son of Vyasa. So the son of Vyasa is Sukadev Goswami, particularly here. So Suta Goswami is saying, Parikshit Maharaj, he was fearless. He was such a great personality, and then when he was cursed to die by this Brahmana boy, he just gave up everything, and he completely fearlessly, he surrendered himself as a disciple to Sukadev Goswami, right? And thus he was able to understand the actual position of Ajita. Ajita means unconquerable. Ajita refers to Krishna. So Krishna is unconquerable. So an unconquerable person, unconquerable Krishna is our master. And this unconquerable Krishna is taking charge of our lives. So therefore, where from has this fear come from, right? So there is no need for fear. So therefore, he was able to understand. Thus, he was able to understand the actual position of Ajita, and at last gave up his material body fearlessly, right, on the bank of the Ganges, without any sign of attachment. So this is, Prabhupada gives a purport here. Unless one thoroughly understands this, right, we have to be thoroughly convinced and thoroughly have faith in this, right, and unless one thoroughly understands this superior or eternal energy of the Lord, it is not possible to leave the material energy. So therefore, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, right? So it begins by Smaranam, and by Kirtanam, our Smaranam, our Shravanam converts to Smaranam easily. So therefore, in this way, we can become thoroughly understood, thoroughly convinced. So then Suta Goswami continues. This was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the Katha Amritam. So how was it possible? How was it that he was able to understand the actual position of the Ajita and so easily, fearlessly, without attachment, give up his body at the bank of the Ganges? So the answer to that, Suta Goswami says in the next verse. This was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the Katha Amritam, the nectarian pastimes of Uttama Sloka, the one who is most glorified, the one who is most fit to be glorified. And it also refers to the one who is glorified by the Vedas, Uttama Sloka. This is another name for Krishna. This was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the Katha Amritam of Uttama Sloka, and who, so this is what it takes. It means we should dedicate our lives to Katha Amritam, to hearing. This should be our main business, right? Slowly, we come to that platform. We should look forward to our retirement by looking forward to this. This is what we have. This is what we live for. This is what the real value of life is, right? Katha Amritam of Uttama Sloka. And who are constantly engaged in smaratam tat padam bhujam, right? So smaratam means smaranam, remembrance of what? So as a reaction of Katha Amritam, as a reaction of hearing the nectarian pastimes of Uttama Sloka, the natural reaction is one automatically remembers the tat padam bhujam, the lotus feet, pada ambujam, the lotus feet of the Lord automatically is remembered by the person. So no artificial means, don't have to artificially force yourself. It automatically comes simply by those who dedicate their lives. So this is the key. This is the secret. And what happens to these people? They do not run the risk of having misconceptions, even at Antakale. Antakale means at the last moment of their lives, right? Antakale Smaran, right? Remember that verse in chapter 8, Bhagavad Gita. And so at the last moment of their lives, very important, this last moment of our lives, because that will determine our next destination. So who are those who are guaranteed to remember without any misconception? These are the people. Katha Amritam Uttama Sloke, and naturally they will have Smaratam Tat Padam Bhujam, and in this way, Antakale, they will remember the Padam Bhujam of the Lord. By the grace of the Lord, not by our own endeavors, by the grace of the Lord. Our endeavors one, and in this way it attracts the grace of the Lord and the bona fide devotees and the spiritual masters. So one can get this opportunity without difficulty. So Prabhupada states here, when the same is heard from, so this Katha Amritam has to be heard from an actual self-realized soul. And basically it has to be properly understood by service and submission, right? Remember the chapter 432, Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasthena sevaya, etc. So this verse means we have to hear submissively from that self-realized soul. That means it has to come through parampara. It has, because that message is being passed through parampara, and the realizations are all pregnated within this message from all the acharyas within the parampara. And if we pass this message just like a postman, a delivery person, as it is, right, as per our understanding and our realization, then in this way, as the more we hear, the more we will have smaranam. Everything becomes transparently clear. So this is the very simple secret of going back to Godhead. By scientific adaptation, one is able to remember the Lord even at the end of life, when the power of remembrance is slackened due to derangement of bodily membranes. So it's a very nice way Prabhupada writes this. So it's understood that at the time of death, it's not easy to control our mind, our senses, the bodily membranes become weak. The humors, the vata, pitta, kapha, all of these humors will choke us, and so much of difficulties we go through in our body. So to remember the Lord at this time is very difficult. But there is no risk for such a person. Katha amritam uttama sloka, right? And it's scientific. So he says this is scientific adaptation. So it's nothing. Scientific means if you take alkaline and you mix with acid, right? In the perfect, what do you call, molar, right? What do you call that word? In the perfect, in Malay they say kepekatan. How you say in English? Okay, anyway, if you it's titration, right? So basically, if you perfectly follow, right, if you take alkaline and mix it with acid, then automatically you will get salt and water. So it is confirmed. So as long as you follow the process, you have to follow the right what's that word? Anyway, I forgot. No. Okay, anyway. So,
concentration?
Yes, concentration.
Concentration.
Yes. Right. So I was waiting for that word. So the right concentration, if you use the right concentration, right, so then it will equally neutralize acid and alkaline. So in this way, we can get salt and water. So it has to be followed. So therefore, it's scientific. So the same applies to bhakti. So bhakti also has to be followed according to the instructions of the shastras, guided by the parampara. So we have, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion, which is a very beautiful book written by Rupa Goswami, specifically on this matter. So this was so, okay, right, I've said that already. Let's move to the next verse. So as long as the great Mahan, so as long as the Mahan, the powerful Uryam Mahan, Abhimanyavaha, so as long as Abhimanyu's son, who is great and powerful, remains the emperor of the world, there is no chance that the personality of Kali will flourish, right? So therefore, Kali knew this, and therefore that's why he begged for mercy. And Maharaj Parikshit, who is Abhimanyavaha, the son of Abhimanyu, he knows exactly where to keep the friends of irreligion. So the very day, the moment Bhagavan Krishna left this earth, the personality of Kali, who promotes all kinds of adharma, came into this world. So we already know this, right? But Prabhupada gives his statement here, right? What he says, if there is an arrangement for the constant chanting of the holy names, qualities, etc. of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no chance at all for the personality of Kali to enter. Now, in order to do this, we need a powerful leader. We need a powerful government who will ensure that these kind of activities are taking place. And Parikshit Maharaj was doing this. So therefore, he was the king of the world, and he was a great Raja Rishi, and he knew the science of God. So he knew what needs to be done to check Kali, right? So he was doing that. So therefore Kali was checked. Why chanting and all is powerful? Because to chant God's name means to associate directly with him. Why? Because his holy names, qualities, etc. are non-different from the Supreme Lord himself. There were many verses which we have quoted this before already. So Maharaj Parikshit was a realist, like the bees, Saramga, who only accept the essence, Sara book. So the bees are a special kind of insect. They know exactly how to go to a plant and extract its essence. So this is a very wonderful secret, right? Which and they are able to extract this and convert it into nectar, which is a technology which until now modern scientists cannot even do it. So there is no way that scientists are able to produce honey so from the flower. They can't do it. So this is Maharaj Parikshit. He was a realist. Why is a realist? Because he knows practically how to get practical things out of other I mean, how, like for example, the bees are able to get nectar practically out of the flower. So in this way, he knew perfectly well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately. So this is a rule in Kali Yuga. When we even think of something good, we still get the punya, right? We still get the benefit, even by just thinking good things. So good thoughts are powerful in the age of Kali. Whereas in other previous ages, just thinking alone wasn't sufficient. They have to follow through with activity. And then but whereas inauspicious acts must be actually performed to render effects. So in the age of Kali, inauspicious things, just thinking of inauspicious things is not sufficient to give us sin. It has to be actually followed through with activity. Then we get the sin. So, but in previous ages, that wasn't the case. In the previous ages, it was opposite. Even if we think of something bad, it is able to give us the reaction in previous ages. Whereas that wasn't true for pious things. But now it's reversed in Kali Yuga. So this is some of the good things that we get in Kali Yuga to balance the ill effects. So Prabhupada says, by discourse on Lord Krishna's activities, one can get rid of all the disadvantages of Kali. So therefore, Suta Goswami continues, so he was never envious of the personality of Kali because he knows how to check Kali, how to keep Kali controlled. So then Maharaj Parikshit considered that less intelligent men, Baleshu, the less intelligent, might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful. So he was thinking, you know, I am the king, yes, but then there are not everybody in this world are having the same level of intelligence. Some of them might easily be swayed by propaganda, right? So therefore, what to do? But those who are self-controlled, Dhira, would have nothing to fear. So Maharaj Parikshit, as the emperor of the world, he was fully confident that such people will not be fearful because of the how he is managing the entire world. So Dhira, therefore, have nothing to fear. So this is also very relevant for us in this age. In this age, currently nowadays, we have all this COVID going on. We have the crazy government and all these things are going on, and the world, conspiracy theories galore, all kinds of things are happening. So yes, Kali is progressing. It's getting worse and worse. But we have to take solace of this message of this Bhagavatam. So, but those who are self-controlled, so this Kali is progressing so that the impious are eventually destroyed. So it's working in that direction. And it's also working to the situations are getting more and more dire, so that we become more and more urgent, anxious to take up spiritual life. Because if things are all very lovey-dovey, everything's very nice, happy, usually we don't think of the Lord. usually our conviction and our determination is not so strong. But when we go through suffering, when we go through miseries, when we go through difficulties and situations, adversities, so it's a very powerful tool to push us in our determination to become more spiritual, especially when the way is given to us. So therefore, those who are self-controlled would have nothing to fear. So here's another hint. So therefore, the type of people who are able to relish the nectar of hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnum, and all that, some extent of self-control is necessary, dhira. So one has to come to that platform also, right? So therefore, we have the 4 regulative principles. Therefore, we have fasting, right? Today is Balaram Purnima. We fasted. We try to self-control ourselves. So in this way, we come to that platform where we are dhira. So then we can very nicely take to this process of bhakti. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless persons. So this was the situation of the kingdom in those days, which is not very much nowadays. That's an overstatement. Nowadays, it's in fact the exact opposite. So Prabhupada says, unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. So therefore, Baleshu, the less intelligent, they will be very easily swayed by propaganda and swayed in such a way that they lose their determination, they lose their fixture in devotional service. They become disturbed. That's the role of Maya. Maya is to disturb us away from the focus of devotional service. So therefore, we have to become dhira and we have to become intelligent. And intelligence here means we become fixed that this is the Supreme Lord is the ultimate well-wisher, and he is everything happens by his grace, and we have nothing to fear so long as we follow his instructions. So what Prabhupada says is, those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. So, O sages, as you did ask me, now I have described almost everything regarding the narrations about Vasudev in connection with the history of the pious Maharaj Parikshit. So this is referring back to the first few chapters where the sages, they have all come to the Naimisaranya forest trying to perform fire sacrifice, 1,000-year-old fire sacrifice, in order to check the progress of Kali, because they were moved by compassion for what would happen to everyone. So, and then Sukadev Goswami came and they were trying to do this fire sacrifice, but they found that it was, the result was very uncertain. They were not confident that it would be able to check the progress of Kali. So when Suta Goswami came, they asked him, "Oh Suta Goswami, please speak. You have heard the pastime from Parikshit, how Sukadev Goswami spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit. Please tell us this pastime. Please tell us where religiosity can take shelter." And then, so in this way, they posed 6 questions. So these 6 questions were being answered by Suta Goswami. And one of those questions were, they were asking, tell us about these great personalities who are having this conversation. What conversation? The Srimad Bhagavatam conversation. So the one who was speaking was Sukadev Goswami, and the one who was hearing is Parikshit Maharaj. So Suta Goswami, while speaking this narration of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he spoke about Vasudev, who is Krishna, and then in connection with the history of the speaker and the one who was hearing. So Maharaj Parikshit is hearing. So later at the end, the next chapter, Suta Goswami will speak about the speaker, Suta Goswami. The speaker is Sukadev Goswami. So right now, in these last 3 chapters, he's talking about the person who's listening, Parikshit Maharaj. So Prabhupada says, a devotee of the Lord regards both the activities of the Lord and those of his pure devotees on an equal level. So that's why it's called Bhagavat. So Bhagavat means there are 3 Bhagavats. So when we say Bhagavat, we usually hear, Bhagavat, Bhagavan comes from the word Bhagavan. So it refers to the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan. Bhagavat refers to the Supreme Lord. It also refers to the devotee of the Supreme Lord. So Bhagavat also refers to the devotee because they are non-different. Not non-different. They cannot be separated. They are different, but they cannot be separated. The Lord is always with the devotees, and the devotees are always with the Lord. What is the proof? Bhagavad Gita chapter 6, right? Yoginam api sarvesham madgatinantara atmanaha. Madgatinantara atmaha. He who is intimately, I am in him and he is in me. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So, therefore, Bhagavat also means devotee. And the third Bhagavat refers to the scripture about the devotee and the Lord. So, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the third Bhagavat. So, there's the book Bhagavat, the person Bhagavat. The person Bhagavat is the devotee and the Supreme Lord. For they are all transcendental. So, right now we have covered the first subtopic of this chapter, how Maharaj Parikshit kept Kali in check. Oh, sorry, this is a second subtopic, verses 5 to 9. So now we will move on in verse 10. Yaha katha bhagavataha kathani yoru karmanaha guna karmasrayaha phambihi samsevyastha bubushubihi. Those who are desirous of achieving complete perfection in life must submissively hear all topics that are connected. So all, whichever and wherever and whichever topics, so yaha, whichever and wherever topics are connected with the transcendental activities and qualities of the personality of Godhead, right? Katha Bhagavata. So Prabhupada, Suta Goswami is saying, those who want to achieve perfection must submissively hear all topics that are connected with the transcendental activity and qualities of the Bhagavatas. That means the devotee and the Lord. And the Lord here is described further. Why we should hear? Because the Lord acts so wonderfully. Uru Karmanaha. Very beautifully, very wonderfully the Lord acts. So it should attract our attention, attract our desires to hear more and more about the Lord and his pastimes. Because he's not a one-man show, not a monologue. So whenever he does his activities, there are always devotees. So it's like a drama. So this is the original drama. So by hearing the original drama of the Lord, in this way we can perfect our life. So the good sages said, now Suta Goswami has finished speaking. Now the sages of Naimisaranya forest, they reply to Suta Goswami. Oh grave Suta Goswami. So Suta Goswami is Dhira, right? Grave. May you live many years. So they were so happy. They were giving him benedictions. May you live many years and have eternal fame. For you are speaking very nicely about the activities of Krishna. Samsasi Krishnasya, the personality of Godhead. This is just like Amritam for mortal beings like us, Martyanam. So mortal beings means Martya, Mrityur means death. Those who are mortal, for them, what is Amritam? Amritam is the nectar of immortality. So what can give immortality to mortals? So this is the one, right? Katha Amritam. So the beautiful pastimes of the Lord. So here we have a very nice arrangement, right? The arrangement is that there is an excellent speaker. The speaker is Suta Goswami, and he is very eager to pass this conversation that he has heard from Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit, the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was so eager, and he was full of this knowledge. He was learned, he was Dhira, he had all the good qualities, he was a devotee, and he had the blessings of Balaram. So like that, the speaker is very eager, and the audience is also very eager. So you can see here, right, how the sages are responding. They are so eager, they want to hear. And they are telling you what you are saying is just like Amritam. So then Prabhupada says, the more we hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord, they are really, as they are stated in the Gita and Bhagavatam, the more we can know about his transcendental nature and thus make definite progress on the path back to Godhead. So we have just begun. Now the Suta Goswami, the sages are saying to Suta Goswami, we have just begun the performance of this fruitive activities. So basically they are saying, we have just started this 1000 years fire sacrifice, which is what they were doing to check the progress of Kali, as I mentioned just now. And see what they're saying, without certainty, anasvase. So they themselves knew that there was no certainty to this. They didn't know what else to do. So therefore, they performed this fire sacrifice. But then, fortunate for them, they had the Suta Goswami who was speaking the Bhagavatam. So this is which will check the progress of Kali, not the fire sacrifices. This is the sacrifice of speaking and hearing about the Katha Amritam of the Lord. So without certainty, so this sacrifice without certainty of its result due to the many imperfections of our action. So they understand that it's not easy to perform sacrifices in the Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada says in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Vishnu tells Shiva that in the age of Kali, men full of anxieties of various kinds can vainly labor in fruitive activity and philosophical speculation. So this is what's happening, right? And as a result, they live lives full of fear due to the progress of the age of Kali. So the sages are saying, we have tried to perform this fire sacrifice, which is without certainty. And as a result, what has happened? Our bodies have become black from smoke. That is the tangible result. Kali is still going on, but our bodies have become black due to the smoke of all this 1000-year-old fire sacrifice. But we are factually pleased by Govinda. So we are factually pleased. Pleased by what? Pleased by Govinda Pada Padma Savam Madhu, which you are distributing. Padma Shavam, Pada Padma. So Pada Padma means the lotus feet. Lotus feet of who? Lotus feet of Govinda. So this lotus feet of Govinda, Govinda Pada Padma, it is like an ashavam, Madhu ashavam. Now what is Madhu ashavam? Madhu is honey, a sweet ashavam. And you know, in Ayurveda, there are certain types of medications which are given. So one of those medications, you know, there's kashayam. Kashayam is very bitter. And then there is ashavam. Ashavam is like, you know, it's like alcoholic beverage. It's not a beverage. It's a medication, alcoholic medicated medication, arishtam or ashavam. And this ashavam is sometimes sweetened. So it's like a tonic. So, and this ashavam is like a medicine, and it is so sweet, madhu. So this Govinda Pada Padma, simply by hearing this beautiful pastimes about the lotus feet of the Lord, it is acting like a medicine which is so sweet, which is soothing us and which is repairing the situation of the Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada is saying, but when they are engaged in devotional service, the result is sure and certain, and there is no loss of energy. So this is the difference between devotional service and any other practice. Any other practice, there is uncertainty, there is difficulty, there is no, you know, it's hard to actually get the result out of it. But with devotional service, there is certainty, right? As long as we follow the process, very easy. Okay, not easy is not the word. Simple, very simple process. It's not complicated. We don't have to perform various yogic exercise, control our breathing in a complicated manner, and then you know, concentrate on the mind and things like that. We simply have to perform the 4 regulative principles and chant Hare Krishna, following the avoiding the offenses, the 10 offenses of chanting, and carrying out devotional service wherever possible. So this is enough to check the progress of Kali and bring us back to Godhead. So in other words, nothing performed for spiritual realization or for material benefit can be successful without the devotional service of the Lord. So the devotional service of the Lord has to be there if we want to have success in any aspect, whether it's spiritual or material, right? So therefore, when we do material activities, we want a house to live in, so we offer the house to the Lord. So therefore we have Graha Pravesh, and we do nice rituals where the Lord is glorified. So same thing, Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he was to become the emperor of the world, he performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, and in this sacrifice he worshipped the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord was given all due respect and full worship. That was the highlight of the Rajasuya sacrifice. So in this way, he was able to rule the world for 36 years until they gave it up for the ultimate abode of the Supreme Lord. One can feel this practically, as one can feel the result of eating food. So Prabhupada is very emphatic. Previously he said this is scientific. It will work. We simply have to follow exactly the process. Like you want to bake a cake, you have to have the certain measurement. You have to have the certain ingredients. You have to measure it accordingly. You have to put the right temperature. You have to cook it at the right time. So therefore, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, these are all there, guided by the Parampara to ensure that we become good bakers. Okay, to ensure that we follow this devotional service correctly. And Prabhupada says, one can feel this. So if we follow all these things and we bake the cake, just like we can eat the cake and taste it, right? The proof of the pudding is in the eating. So as one can feel the result of eating food, one can feel this practically. It will work. You can feel the tangible difference in our lives, right? We can see how we were last time, how we are improving, how we are progressing. And in this, we can take heart. The process works. And we can see so many people who have followed this and who have been successful in their lives. So then Suta Goswami, the sages now, they are talking, the Naimisaranya sages, they say the value of Nimesha Bhagavat Sangi Sangasya. So what's the meaning of that? Nimesha, a moment, the value of a moment of Bhagavat Sangi. Bhagavat, I already mentioned what is Bhagavat, right? The association of, here it's referring to particularly the devotees. Just a moment's association, Sangi Sangasya, the value of that moment's association cannot even be compared to what? To Swargam, attainment of heavenly planets. And we are talking just a moment, just a moment's association cannot be compared to so many thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years living in Swargaloka. It cannot be compared to Apunar Bhavam. This is even better than Swargam. This is liberation. It cannot be compared to liberation from matter, because that is not the actual Swadharma of the soul. It cannot be compared to, so what to speak of comparing it to even something like Asishaha. What is Asishaha? Worldly benedictions for material prosperity. So it cannot be compared to heaven. It cannot be compared to liberation even. So what to speak of simply mere worldly material benedictions. So this is, like I put the scale here, complete imbalance. The one moment of Bhagavat Sangi. So why is this so? Because that one moment is all is needed to plant that seed of bhakti in our heart. Otherwise, we can go on in Swarga, we can go on in liberation, we can go on with material prosperity. And if we never had that one moment of devotion, of the association, we would never have the seed of bhakti planted in our hearts. That's why once Prabhupada said, if you actually know the value of what you have got in your life, in this Krishna consciousness, you would faint. He mentioned that to the disciples once. We just don't realize what's waiting for us if you just follow this process with conviction. For those, so these things, Swargam, Apunarbhavam, Asisha, the material worldly benedictions are meant for those who are, these are for those who are meant for death, Martyanam. So whereas if we want Amritam, then we don't want these things. We want Katha Amritam, right? Krishna Katha Amritam. So such attachment is conditioned because it drives away the benedictions of life and prosperity. So if we are attached to Swarga, liberation or material benedictions. It is conditioned. Why? Because it drives away the benedictions of life and prosperity, the real prosperity. And just the opposite is Bhagavat Sangi. It's a very purifying effect. Such association is in fact worshipable, and one may accept it as the highest goal of life. So simply, if one can have the goal of having a moment's association with devotees who can plant that seed in our heart and cultivate it, so that is enough for that particular goal of life, because it will grow. The seed will grow as we water it and as we care for it. So then the sages continue. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, Govinda, is the exclusive ekanta shelter, exclusive shelter for all great living beings, Mahattama. So the great beings are called Mahattama, and for them, they are very chaste. They are not multi-branched in their, in Bhagavad Gita, Neha Bikrama Nasosti. So the Neha Bikrama Nasosti means one who is there's the verse, what's that verse called? Bahushakahi. Bahushakahi. Bahushaka means many branched. Ones whose intelligence is many branched, they will go here, they will go there. Oh, can I have, I think this is right. So nowadays, a lot of people, especially in the material world, they become very easily impressed by materialistic statements. The various isms, the various science and understanding people like to say in various things, but they don't become impressed with scripture. When people put scripture, they just, oh, okay. But then when one mundane psychologist or one mundane philosopher will say an interesting statement, well, then everybody will say, wow, okay, so interesting, so nice, so relevant. But they fail to understand the relevance of the Bhagavatam, which is so full of this kind of statements. So ekanta, they become chaste. So these great souls, they are not interested in these other things. They know that all this is temporary, all this is materialistic, and all this is simply, it doesn't really bring the ultimate benediction. So one should be chaste to the lotus feet of the Lord and the instructions of the lotus feet of the Lord. So these are the shelter of all great living beings, Mahattama. And his transcendental attributes, gunanam agunasnasya, cannot even be measured. So guna, his attributes, which are agunasya, transcendental. So they are called aguna because they are both guna and aguna. So their material attributes are there, but it's at the same time not a material attribute, it's also spiritual attribute. So for the Lord, it is described as transcendental. His nature is always transcendental, not material. So therefore, agunasya. So in the Sri Ishopanishad also says, the supreme truth is without qualities. So this is not to be misunderstood that there are no qualities. There are no material qualities. There are transcendental qualities. So therefore, the word is different. So therefore, he's transcendental. So what is the thing here? His transcendental attributes cannot even be measured. By who? By such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. So the verse says, Yogeshwara ye Bhava Padma Mukhyaha. So Bhava Padma, Bhava is Lord Shiva and Padma is Brahma. So these are all mystic masters. They are so powerful, extremely powerful personalities of the Lord, personalities within this creation. But even they cannot fully understand the full qualities of the Supreme Lord. So the sages are appreciating the qualities of the Supreme Lord. Can anyone who is rasa-vit, we know tattva-vit. Tattva-vit means one who is master of knowledge, right? So there is also rasa-vit. Rasa-vit means one who has mastered or expert. Vit means expert. So one who is expert in tasting, one who is an expert in tasting the rasas. Can anyone who is a rasa-vit ever be fully satiated? So the word is triptiate, tripti, comes from the word tripti. Can ever be fully satiated by hearing topics about him? So Therefore, it takes someone to be a rasa-wit so that they can always hear the pastimes of the Lord, understanding the real qualities of this Lord. So we have to purify our heart. The qualities, the sun is there, is just like the qualities, the beauty, the taste is everything there, just like the sun is there. But sometimes the sun is covered by the clouds. So in that way, the clouds of anarthas, which is in our heart, is clouding this beautiful, wonderful taste. So the more we chant Cheto Darpana Marjanam, it will remove the dust from the mirror of our heart, so that the sun of Krishna consciousness will blaze forth brightly. And in this way, we can fully taste that nectar. So therefore, the sages are appreciating this, right? And then there's this verse, Prabhupada quotes in his purport, Ramante yogino anante satyananda chid atmani iti rama padena shao param brahmadbhyabhyate. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures. So we are talking about mystics. Huh? So Yogeshwara, Lord Shiva, what normal mystics? This is Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma himself, right? Don't fully understand the qualities. And they are also hankering after the hearing of the Lord. So mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth. And therefore, the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. So therefore, Rama means all blissful. So where does this bliss come from, right? So that comes from the name, fame, pastimes. He's the Lord himself, and he's invested this bliss in his Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leela, so that we can fully take advantage of it, even in Kali Yuga. And similarly, there's also this verse in Bhagavad Gita, very famous verse, Chatursloki. Matchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. So, matchita madgata prana. So the devotees, their life, they are always thinking, matchita, they are always thinking of the Lord, matchita and madgata prana. They dedicate their lives for the attainment or the service of the Supreme Lord. Bodhayanta parasparam. So in this way, they are always trying to enlighten each other. Katayantas, kata, again the word kata comes. Katayantas chamam nityam, always nityam, always enlightening each other by these pastimes of the Lord. Tusyanticha, and they take pleasure. Tusyanticha ramanticha. They are so, they are tasting the pleasure of this very nicely. So this is what devotees do. So Prabhupada says, nowadays, Bhagavata Saptas are held for 7 days only. And after finishing the show, both the audience and the speaker become engaged in material activities as usual. So why does this happen? It happens because they can do so because the speaker is not Bhagavata Pradhana and the audience is not Sushrusatam. So this is the problem. Bhagavata Pradhana means the speaker is not coming from Parampara and he is not speaking based on the realizations of the pure Bhagavats. And the audience is also not, the word is used here, Sushrusatam. Sushrusatam means anxious. They are not anxious to hear. So most of the time it's like, okay, when will it finish? So this is the usual case for all of us because we still have our impurities, but this is the standard. This is the gold standard. So we can understand this is, so if we think that we are pure devotees, this is how we gauge ourselves. How are we advancing in our spiritual life? We should eventually come to this platform that we should have some taste, right? The more we develop the taste for hearing, and hearing what you remember the earlier verse, yaha, whatever and whichever that is connected with the Bhagavatas, right? Krishna, it doesn't mean that, oh, I only want to hear Leelas, I don't want to hear philosophy. No, it's yaha, whichever and whatever that is connected with the Supreme Lord. So that's why Bhagavatam, it covers so many things. It covers creation. It covers how the material creation was made, how the dissolution. All this is connected with the pastimes of the Lord. So one cannot come and say, I will only hear Rasa Leela. No, or I will only hear Katha or Leela, Jagannath Leela, whatever. No, those are sweet, but one doesn't differentiate. Both are sweet. Both are very relishable, because it's understanding deeper, deepening our understanding about the Lord. Because Leela alone, recently I was hearing a class my Guru Maharaj was giving. He was saying, Leela, just simply hearing Leela alone is not going to help us very much without philosophy. That's why if you see Prabhupada, when he spoke, when he wrote Krishna book, it is full of philosophy, so that just simply hearing Leela without support of philosophy is not going to help us much. So therefore, every Leela has to be fully supported and impregnated with philosophy, so that we can understand deeper the Tattva. So, O Suta Goswami, you are a Vidwan. So now they are glorifying Suta Goswami. You are a Vidwan and pure devotee of the Lord, Bhagavat, because the personality of Godhead, Hare, is your chief object of service. So this is the definition of what we can understand as Bhagavat, right? We keep the Lord as our chief object of our life. So that is, and then, therefore, you are the perfect person. So you have come by great fortune, you have come. So therefore, please describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception. It is Visuddham. It is beyond Suddha. Suddha is still in the three modes, mode of goodness. It is Vishuddha, beyond the three modes, right? Beyond Suddha. For we are anxious, Sushrushatam. So here they are telling, we are anxious to receive such message. Please tell us. So both are anxious. The speaker is anxious to speak and relishing this, the statement, and the listeners are also relishing their statements, and they are passing that point to the speaker. So in this way, they enliven each other, and in this way, it can go beyond 7 days, 24 hours, constantly it can go on. So Prabhupada says, when such a combination is possible, namely a qualified speaker and a qualified audience, it is then and there very much congenial to continue discourse on the transcendence. So this is how real Bhagavata Sapta can take place. So Suta Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which the Maha Bhagavata Parikshit, right, whose buddhi or intelligence was fixed on liberation. So please tell. So now we are hearing two. Parikshit is hearing from Sukadev Goswami, and this conversation is narrated by Suta Goswami to the assembled sages of Naimisaranya, headed by Saunaka Rishi. So now they are saying, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Mahabhagavata Parikshit, whose buddhi was fixed on liberation, and how Maharaj Parikshit attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda. So Garuda is called here Khaga Indra. That means the king of birds. So later we will understand why this particular reference is used, right? So these topics were vibrated by Vyasaki. Vyasaki is Sukadev Goswami. So please recite to us again what Vyasaki told you, what Vyasaki told Parikshit. You heard, you were in the assembly. So you please tell us, because you are great. You are Vidwan and you are Mahabhagavat, just like how Parikshit was hearing from Mahabhagavat, Sukadev Goswami. So now please repeat this historic moment so that we can also take advantage and therefore check Kali Yuga once and for all. So Prabhupada says, attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord is called the perfect stage of liberation. So this is the perfection of liberation, right? Attainment of the Padapadma. Such a stage is attained by perfect knowledge and renunciation. So this is another key, right? By perfect knowledge of understanding. What is perfect knowledge? Perfect knowledge is basically what is described in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. To understand it correctly from the parampara, and with renunciation. So both has to be there. So we have to also practice renunciation of the materialistic aspect. the desire to enjoy matter. Thus, please narrate to us the Atyadbhuta. Atyadbhuta means the wondrous, Adbhuta, right? Narrations of the unlimited Ananta. Unlimited means Ananta, right? It's another word for unlimited. For they are Param Punyam. They are beyond piety. They are Param, the ultimate piety for the living entity. So please narrate this. And not only they are wonderful, they are unlimited. Not only they are unlimited, not only they are beyond all piety, they are wonderful. Adyadbhuta. They were spoken to Maharaj Parikshit, and they are very dear to the Bhagavatabhiramam. So what is Bhagavatabhiramam? That means these are the pure devotees. It's very dear. Therefore, Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Amala Puranam. And it is very, and it is Vaishnavanam Priyam, right? It's very dear to the devotees. So here's another statement saying the same thing. Bhagavatabhiramam, very dear to the pure devotees. Being full of, why? Because it is Amala Puranam, being full of Bhakti Yoga, Yoga Nishtam. It is completely transcendental. So Prabhupada says, Srimad Bhagavatam is mainly full of the narrations of the activities of the Supreme Unlimited, and therefore it is the science of Bhakti Yoga. Thus it is para, or supreme, compared to all other literatures in the Vedas. So far now we have covered Rasavit. The sages express their sushrishtam. They want to show their enthusiasm to hear more. So it's already 9:30. I think we will stop here. I will continue the other parts later on. Okay. So thank you very much for that.